Well, you made it to the end of the class. Good for you. It's been a great 2 months together, and so I hope that you've enjoyed it. We're going to talk right now about ministry, and I want to first define that word, and I want to define it as what it is, and then explain a little bit of what it's not real quick. So, ministry is a word that means service. It's as basic as that. There's you know, we talk about being in ministry and a career of ministry, and we talk about people called ministers and all of that. Don't let that distract you. Ministry means service. And so when I talk about it in here, I'm not talking about necessarily some kind of highly structured, highly programmed thing where you minister to other people. Now, we have those, and obviously our church has those because we want to tailor service to the needs of certain types of people, and there's a reason for that. But at the same time, for your purposes, I want you to think more broadly. I want you to think of ministry just as service in and to the church, not necessarily this ministry, that ministry, this ministry, that ministry. I hope that the difference there makes sense. For example, sometimes we go, well, I can't serve the church unless I have, gone through a ministry application process and I'm volunteering under this person, and this is the schedule and all the structure that comes with that. You can serve somebody in the church simply by inviting them to sit next to you, right? Asking them about themselves, offering to pray for them, befriending them, inviting them to lunch. You can minister by, when you see a piece of trash in the courtyard, picking it up. Like, it doesn't have to be this really structured thing. So I hope that makes sense. So when we talk about ministry, we're on page 2, which is Mark 2, but it's really the first page of content in your handout. It says there, church and following Jesus is not only about getting what we need, okay? Yes, we need to receive what we need. We talked about that when we talked about the church. You need to be ready to ask for what your needs are. But that doesn't mean that it's all about you. And so some people, the way that they come to church, and sometimes for decades and decades, is, does this church do what I want, say what I want, make me feel the way I want, and leave me alone in all other ways? Is this church serving me? Now, again, not bad to get help from the church when you need help. We all need that. We all need connection. We all need somebody to be kind to us. We all need somebody to pray for us. We all sometimes need some practical help at times. But really, I want you to get off on the right foot and be able to say, I come to church partly for that, but largely and maybe mostly for what I offer to others. That's going to be really important. And what we would call that, what you offer to others, we would call ministry, right? Service. So the Bible says in Philippians 2:4 there, let each of you not look only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. So this is at the core of how we live, how we follow what we've been referring to several times as the way of Jesus. We follow Jesus by living for others. How did Jesus live? Did he live selfishly? Did he live where it was all about him? Not at all. When you take the time to go through the stories of Jesus' life in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament of the Bible, you'll see the life that he lived, and you'll go, oh, he seems to be all about a daily activity of serving other people. And so I want you to understand that's like at the core. That's like fundamental to who we are. It's not an add-on. So for a lot of people, the idea is I go to church, I walk in, I sit down, I maybe I listen to something, I learn something, I leave. If I'm really gonna go for it further, maybe I meet someone and talk to somebody. And if I were like, I didn't have any kids, didn't have any jobs, didn't have any pets, didn't have any cars, didn't have anything going on in my life, I might find time to serve the church. And I think we should reverse that to the point where really the focus is on serving the church, even if it means not having everything in our lives that we wish we had. And so I want to challenge you with that. And you're going to kind of go to church and be around and say, well, but I see that person, they just come in, they sit. Yes, I understand that. But maybe because you're in our class, I want to hold you to a higher standard and get you off on the right foot. So I beat that drum a little bit long. So let's talk about giftings. We introduced this idea last time when we were talking about what the church is and what the church does, that God gives us giftings. Some of those are a little more practical, and some are a little more spiritual to the point of being really miraculous things. Um, what I'm calling giftings is sort of all of the above. There are people with the ability to cook, and because they have the ability to cook, they either help cook for events, maybe they bring meals to people who need meals because of a surgery, the loss of a loved one, something like that, right? So is cooking ability necessarily a spiritual ability? No, but generosity is. And so we talked about that last week. So I don't, if you have questions, let me know, but I'm not going to rehash it all here. But when we talk about giftings, it says each of us has different things we are good at and passionate about. We looked at various gifts and talents in the church in the last lesson, and you will be continually understanding and growing in your areas of strength and spiritual gifts. So this is something that you don't discover, all in a weekend. You discover it over time, and you begin to get to know what you're good at and then your limitations. You begin to get to know what you're not so good at that you appreciate somebody else doing. I don't cook, and I really appreciate people who do. I'm not a real practical, organized planner kind of guy. And so I really appreciate people who are good with details and good with delegating and good with administrating. That's not really my forte. And so think about that. One of the ways, let me give you a real easy way to think about, well, I don't know what I'm good at. When you go to a large event, a wedding, a memorial, a party, right? Some event. Okay, I want you to just hypothetically here. What do you gravitate to in that event? Would you gravitate to being the planner? Would you want to go, oh, I wish I had been here to help plan the decorations. I wish I'd been here to help plan the schedule for the day. Do you gravitate towards being the person who you're running around taking out trash even though this isn't even your house, right? You're that kind of person. Are you the person who looks for a lonely person there and you want to talk with them? Are you the person who's the life of the party and you're keeping things going and making sure people feel welcome and you're kind of a host? Are you the person who, is, I don't know. I don't know what. I'm running out of examples. But maybe you love hanging out with the kids at the party, right? Whatever it is. You want to, play games and entertain and babysit, whatever. What I'm getting at is think about often in those bigger social situations, we get a little clue to who we are. It's hard to figure out who we are all by ourselves alone. And our culture kind of would tell us sometimes that's the best way to figure out who you are. And I think the Bible would say, no, you figure out who you are in community with others, in your relationships with others. And so think about that. Just think about it as a hypothetical. We might discuss that a little bit in class, but think about what your role is, because that's a clue to how you're built, right? That's a clue to how you're built. And so in the church is sort of like that big social thing all the time. And so you'll start to figure out your place in it, right? Where do I fit? Where do I serve best? It doesn't always look the same. Let me give you an example. I used to do junior high ministry with another guy. He was a leader, and I worked with him. He would wrestle kids. He was super active and hiking and just really kind of loved sports and fun and stuff. And I hate for sports and fun and stuff. I'm zero fun. Never want to wrestle a kid. I would lose even though I was older than them. Not my thing. And really what we found was that he really was able to minister to and build relationships with kids that I really wasn't going to connect well with. And then I was able to connect well with kind of the quiet, shy, nerdy, more sensitive kids that were in the group, the guys that were in the group. And that just worked, right? You take care of your people, I'll take care of my people, and that worked. I remember a time we were all playing a game in the room, and one kid came to ask me questions about what he was being taught in school, and was it, how does he defend his faith? And I'm like, I would way rather sit here with this kid and talk about that than go play a game. That's just me. And so again, I'm no fun. But my point is, you will discover the things in church that you are able to do and good at and come naturally more so to you. And then there's going to be things that other people, you just let other people take care of those things. All right. But ask yourself, what has God made you able to do for the church? And that could be, again, really more kind of practical, or I guess I would say less miraculous maybe, and really more miraculous. Maybe it's you have this amazing ability to understand what's going on or speak to people, things that you feel the Lord's putting on your heart. But it could be that you're really good at just sitting and talking with somebody and making them know how important they are to the Lord. I don't know. We'll talk maybe some of those in class. All right, basic ministry principles. There are only 4 that I have here. We could outline many more. There are huge volumes of books written on this, but I'm going to give you 4. First, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Ministry is full of awkward and uncomfortable situations, but you choose how you will act. I just got done saying that you're going to be good at and find it kind of natural to you to serve in certain ways and with certain people. However, that doesn't mean that God won't put you in situations where you're like, why me? What am I doing here? That could sometimes be just temporary. It could sometimes just be a growth thing. Embrace those. And then even if you're doing something that you feel kind of more naturally bent towards, there's still going to be tons of awkward and uncomfortable situations where you're just not sure what to do, how to act, how to react. Ministry is a steady diet of awkward and uncomfortable, unpredictable, and sometimes just hard. And so, because it's people, we're all different. We're all messy. I always say we're like porcupines playing football. Someone's going to get hurt, even though we just wanted to have a good time. And so, get comfortable you'll get used to that. Actually, in ministering in the church, you get used to being uncomfortable. Second one, you are here for them, not for you. Ministering is not about our needs, getting attention for ourselves, or making sure our way of doing things is the way that's done. It's about serving others. So if that's what you walk into going, I'm here for you, that really will help shape the way that you serve, because some people, we serve, but it's really for our benefit or looking good or feeling like we fit in or, we serve so that you'll take care of me. We really want it to be about others because that's what Jesus modeled for us. And then on page 3, remember that Jesus is the only true hero. You cannot save people, change people, or satisfy all needs and expectations. You're not enough. You're not enough. You're inadequate for fully serving the church. Take heart, right? When we think that I'm going to single-handedly lift this person out of poverty, I'm going to single-handedly make sure this person believes about Jesus, I'm going to change this person's life. Not necessarily. And so really we're here to let Jesus use us in whatever capacity he will. And by the way, he will surprise you at how much he uses you. And sometimes you won't even know. Sometimes people will, think about maybe there might be or there will be people in your life who've affected you spiritually. You may never get the chance to let them know that. They may never understand that, but it's still completely valid and legitimate. And so you might be that person. I'm guessing you will be at some point that person in someone else's life as well. On that note, we're part of a family and a team. So it's not just about you alone single-handedly helping somebody. We help together as a team. So each person has a different personality and a different set of abilities. We all do something well. We all need each other and do not need to compete with one another, which is really common in the church, by the way, and kind of a bummer. But I do it too. Out of insecurity, I'll compare myself with other people, what they're good at, what I'm good at, who's better at what. That could come out of pride and it could come out of insecurity, but it doesn't come from a place of really, truly trusting Jesus that he's given me what he's given me to be able to do. He's going to give me what I need to do whatever he asks me to do. And he's given me other people to do the things that I'm just limited in. And so I should rejoice that they're good at what they're good at and I'm good at what I'm good at as I figure out what that is, right? And that's a process, like I said, for us. We serve for God's glory. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." And so there is a place where we want people to see what we do as good, but we do it to glorify God, who's doing those things through us, and not to glorify ourselves. Okay. We talk about discipleship. Discipleship is a form of ministry. I define discipleship here as helping others join us as we follow Jesus. So the idea is that I'm following Jesus. I'm pursuing him in my life. I want him to be my guide, and I want him to change me, and I want him to teach me and grow me and use me, right? And so I want you to come along in some capacity with me as I do that. And that can be that can mean different things. So we can talk about discipling somebody toward Jesus, meaning they're not a believer, but where they're seeing our life, they're maybe learning from our life, they're learning from the Bible's teaching, but they're not quite ready to throw 100% of themselves in with Jesus yet, but you're helping them move towards him. That could be a form of discipleship. What's really maybe more evangelism, which we'll talk about in a second. Discipleship typically means helping a person who's already a believer advance in their walk with Christ. And what's funny is we get a lot of there's a lot of different opinions and schools of thought on what's the right way to do this or the best way to do this. I think there's lots of right ways to do this. So some people will say, you need people to come and live. The only way is for them to live with you all the time, like live in your house, so they can observe your life, and you can be teaching them just as you're cooking and cleaning and doing whatever. That's a method, but that may not work for everybody. Another method that's pretty common is to get together maybe once a week for a period of time and often go through a book together. Could be a book of the Bible, could be a book set up for discipleship. There's kind of curriculums out there. It sometimes is looser. I've gotten together with people and just talked about life and, pushed on some things and shared some things with them and done that. I've gotten together with people for years at a time and sometimes very, very briefly. But I think a lot of things fit under the umbrella of helping others join us as we follow Jesus. And so it's really not about the method. It's really about, are you not just saying, I want to grow, but you're helping another person grow as well, which, by the way, helps you grow. You really start to reflect on your life, and is my life worth imitating? And, if I'm going to teach others, how should I be living? And you'll find that they'll challenge you and they'll help you. It's a two-way street, actually, often in discipleship. And so 1 Corinthians 11:1 says, Paul's writing to a church that was struggling a little bit, and he says, be imitators of me as I am of Christ. And so that's kind of a picture of discipleship right there in that sentence. Imitate me, but I'm imitating Jesus. Ultimately, I'm teaching you to imitate him. Okay, so we could call that discipleship. And you are really new still in your faith, but guess what? There's always somebody a little bit newer. And so you can be watching for, who can I help to follow Jesus along with me. The other thing that you want to look at is there somebody in your life that you would benefit from them helping you along and discipling, or sometimes we use the word mentoring you. We're going to talk in class about how you would go about finding a person like that and how you would approach that, because that's a really healthy thing. I've had several different guys do that with me in my life. Some were better at it than others, but nevertheless, to have somebody care about you, pray for you, and be ready to teach you a little bit more than you already know is a very, very healthy, good thing. Okay.